Good day, everyone. So for today, we will tackle about PERT and CPM. So PERT and CPM is a project involves planning, scheduling, and controlling related activities using limited resources like people, machines, materials, money, and time. Projects can be large and complex, such as building houses, uh, highways, or shopping centers, or involve new product development and research. So managers need a flexible planning and scheduling system to achieve the best results and quickly adjust to changes you needed. So what is PERT? PERT stands for Project Evaluation and Review Technique developed during the 1950s. So the technique was developed and used in conjunction with the planning and designing of the Polaris missile project. On the other hand, CPM stands for Critical Path Method, which was developed by DuPont Company and applied first to the construction projects in the chemical industry. Though both PERT and CPM techniques have similarity in terms of concepts, the basic difference is CPM has single time estimate and PERT has three time estimates for activities and uses probability theory to find a chance of reaching the scheduled time. The project management generally consists of three phases. So first is planning. Planning involves setting the objectives of the project, identifying various activities to be performed, and determining the requirements of resources, such as men, materials, machines, and etc. The cost and time for all the activities are estimated, and a network diagram is developed, showing sequential interrelationships, or predecessor and successor, between various activities during the planning stage. So planning is setting project goals, listing activities, identifying needed resources like people, materials, and machines, and estimating time and cost. A network diagram is created to show the order of activities and their relationships. Second is scheduling. Based on the time estimates, the start and finish times for each activity are worked out by applying forward and backward pass techniques. Critical path is identified along with the slack and float for the non-critical paths. So scheduling using time estimates to determine start and finish of each activity. Forward and backward pass methods are used to find the critical path, slack, and float of non-critical activities. Third is controlling. Controlling refers to analyzing and evaluating the actual progress against the plan, reallocation of resources, crushing and review of projects with periodical reports are carried out. So controlling is monitoring actual progress against the plan, reviewing reports, and making adjustments like reallocating resources or crushing activities to keep the project on track. So now let's move to the components of PERT and CPM network. PERT and CPM networks contain two major components involving activities and events. Activity represents an action and consumption of resources like time, money, and energy required to complete a portion of a project. So activity is represented by an arrow. So activity is a work task in a project. It is something you actually do, like building, designing, or testing. So it uses resources such as time, money, labor, or materials. So it is shown in a diagram using an arrow. On the other hand, we have event. Event or node will always occur at the beginning and end of an activity. So the event has no resources and is represented by a circle. So the I event and J event are the tail event and head event respectively. So again, event does not use any resources and it is shown as a circle as shown in the diagram. And the starting event is called the tail event and the ending event is called the head event. So let's move to merge and burst events. It is one or more activities can start and end simultaneously at an event. So merge event, from the word merge, it is something that we think about collaborating with each other. So a merge event happens when two or more activities come together into one event. So meaning, before moving forward, all incoming activities must be completed first. So, for example, activity A, B, and C from the diagram shown, again, the arrow represents the activity and the circle represents the event. So, three of them go into one event. And you cannot proceed until A and B activities or C are both done. First event, on the other hand, is the opposite. It happens when one event splits into multiple activities. So meaning from one point, several activities can start at the same time. So example, the events from the event, multiple activities may start from that event. So now let's move to preceding and succeeding activities. So it is activities performed before given events are known as preceding activities. And activities performed after a given event are known as succeeding activities. Activities A and B precede activities C and D respectively. So, preceding activities, these are activities that must be done first before another activity can start. So, in the diagram, activities A and B happen before the others. So, they are called the preceding activities. On the other hand, succeeding activities, these are the activities that come after a certain event or activity. So in the diagram, activities C and D happen after A and B, so they are called the succeeding activities.
So, good day everyone. So, I'm discussing dummy activity. So, it is an imaginary activity which does not consume any resource, and time is called a dummy activity. So, dummy activities are simply used to represent a connection between events in order to maintain a logic in the network. So, it represents by a dotted line in a network. In the diagram, so as you can see in the presentation, so activity A, B, and C are connected in one way that requires preserving the correct sequence of events. So the dummy activity ensures that dependence are accurately shown without implying that an actual task is performed. So this is especially important when two activities share a common starting or ending event but have different preceding requirements. Without the dummy activity, the network might incorrectly suggest that certain activities are dependent on others when they are not. Therefore, dummy activities help avoid ambiguity and ensure the logical flow of the project is properly structured. So let's proceed to the next slide. So errors to be avoided in constructing a network. So two activities starting from a tail event must not have the same end event. To ensure this, it is absolutely necessary to introduce a dummy activity as shown in the figure. So as shown in the figure, it highlights an error to avoid when constructing a network diagram. Two activities are starting from the same event must not have the same ending event unless properly distinguished. The incorrect diagram shows two activities originating from a single node and ending at the same node, which creates confusion because it becomes unclear which activity is which and what their individual dependents are. This violates a fundamental rule in PERT and CPM network construction. The correct diagram resolves this issue by introducing a dummy activity, which creates a separate path and differentiates the activities while still maintaining their logical relationships. By doing this, each activity is uniquely identified by its starting and ending nodes. This ensures clarity in the network and prevents misinterpretation during project analysis, particularly when calculating early start times, latest finish times, and identifying the critical path. So now let's proceed to letter C, errors to be avoided in constructing a network. So C, the direction of arrow should flow from left to right, avoiding mixing of direction as shown in the figure. So in this figure, it highlights a common mistake in constructing a network diagram used in PERT and CPM. Incorrect arrow direction. In project networks, arrows represent the flow of activities and should be generally moved consistently from left to right to show logical progression over time. So the diagram show arrows pointing in mixed direction, which creates confusion in interpreting task dependencies and sequencing, such as inconsistency can lead to errors when identifying the critical path. Since the flow of activities becomes unclear, ensuring a uniform direction helps maintain clarity and makes it easier to trace the sequence of events from start to finish. So, rules in constructing a network. Number 1, no single activity can be represented more than once in a network. So the length of an arrow has no significance. Number 2, the event number 1 is the start event, and the event with the highest number is the end event. Before an activity can be undertaken, all activities preceding it must be completed. The activities must follow a logical sequence or interrelationship between activities. Number 3, in assigning numbers to events, there should not be any duplication of numbers in a network. Number 4, dummy activities must be used only if it necessary to reduce the complexity of a network. Number 5, a network should have only one start event, one end event. Next slide. Some convention of network diagram are shown in figure A, B, C, D below. Activity B can be performed only after completing the activity A, and activity C can be performed only after completed activity B. So the activity B and C can start simultaneously only after completing A. So this figure is explain the basic convention for activity sequencing and network diagrams. It shows that some activity must follow a strict order, while others can occur simultaneously depending on dependencies. For example, one diagram illustrates a linear sequence where activity B can only begin after activity A is completed, and activity C follows B. So another diagram shows parallel activities where activities B and C can both start after activity A is finished. So these examples emphasize how PERT and CPM visually represent dependencies, either sequential or concurrent, which is essential for planning, scheduling, and determining which task can be performed at the same time to optimize project duration. So letter D, and errors to be avoided in constructing a network. So the direction of our arrows should flow from left to right, avoiding mixing of direction as shown in the figure. So this figure highlights a common mistake in constructing a network diagram used in PERT and CPM: incorrect arrow direction. In project networks, our arrows represent the flow of activities and should generally move consistently from left to right to show logical progression over time. So the diagram shows arrows pointing in mixed direction, which creates confusion in interpreting task dependencies and sequencing. Such inconsistency can lead to errors when identifying the critical path. Since the flow of activities becomes unclear, ensuring a uniform direction helps maintain clarity and makes it easier to trace the sequence of events from start to finish. So in figure C, activity A and B must be completed before start of activity C. This diagram shows a situation where activity B, A and B must both be completed before activity C can begin. So in PERT CPM terms, activity C has two immediate predecessors, A and B. The network correctly represents this by merging the paths of A and B into one event before C starts. So this ensures the activity C cannot start early if only one of the preceding activities is finished, which reflects proper project logic. So on the other hand, the figure D, activity C must start only after completion of activity A and B. So, but activity D can start after completion of B. So to make it simple, this diagram illustrates a more complex dependencies. Activity C must start only after both activity A and B are completed. So while activity D can start after activity B alone. So Adami activity is used to show that the activity C depends on both A and B without forcing the D to depend on A. This avoids a logical error and clearly separates the dependencies. So in PERT CPM, this convention ensures that each activity starts only when its true predecessors are finished, so allowing accurate calculation of schedules and critical path.
So, procedure for numbering the events using the Fulkerson rule. Step 1. Number the start or initial event as 1. Step 2. From event 1, strike off all outgoing activities. So this would have made one or more events as initial events. Event which do not have incoming activities. So number that event as 2. So step 3. Repeat step 2 for event 2. Event 3 until the end event. The end event must have the highest number. So here's an example of the table. So example 1. So the sequence of activities for house construction project. So here shows the table that the name of the activity from A to F. So here's an example of the sequence of activities for housing construction project. So let me explain this table. So this table shows the name of the activity, starting and finishing event, a description of the activity, predecessors, and time duration. So the name of the activity starts with A to F, while the starting and the finishing event shows here 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 3 to 5, 4 to 6, and 5 to 6. As stated earlier, numbered from event 1, strike of all outgoing activities. So this would have made one or more events as initial events. So number that event as 2. Okay. So here's the solution. Okay, let me explain the solution. So the figure shows a PERT/CPM network diagram for a house construction project, explaining the sequence, duration, and dependency of activities. No? So the project starts at event 1, which is stated here. No? Where the activity A, prepare the house plan, takes 4 days and leads to event 2. Here, 1 to 2. From event 2, activity B, construct the house, is carried out and takes 58 days. No? So reaching activity D, reaching event 3. So after construction, the work splits into 2 parallel activities. Activity C, fix the doors, taking 2 days, which goes to event 4. And activity D, wiring the house, taking 2 days, which goes to event 5. So from these 2 events, finishing tasks are performed. Activity E, paint the house from event 4 to event 6, takes 1 day. So an activity F, polish the door, from event 5 to 6, also takes 1 day. So the project ends at event 6, which represents completion of all work. So in PERT CPM terms, this network ladder clearly shows precedence relationships, allows parallel activities, and helps identify the critical path, the longest sequence of dependent activities that determines the total project duration. So activities A and B are critical because delays in them will delay the entire project. No, parang domino effect. So while the parallel activities after construction help reduce total completion time. So this is how the sequence of activities works. No, it starts from first event and ends to the last event. If the first event doesn't or not complete, it's not completed, you can proceed to the next event. So here's another example for you to further understand the example. So as you have seen here, consider the project given and construct a network diagram, sequence of activities for building construction project. So, an activities from A to F, here's the description. A, purchase of land. B, preparation of building plan. C, level of clean the land. D, register and get approval. E, construction the building. And F, paint the building. So here's the legends, no? And let's go to the solution for us to better understand it. So, in the first diagram, A, activities C and D both correctly depend on A. So meaning, A is their common predecessor. However, the way the network is drawn creates a logical mistake. It makes it look like activity B is also a predecessor of C. So which is not true based on the project's actual dependencies. So this violates a key rule in PERT CPM. So activities should only show the exact dependencies they truly have. So no extra or missing relationships. So in the second diagram, it introduces usually shown as a dash arrow. There is this dummy activities does not represent real work or consume time or resources. It simply helps preserve the correct logical relationships with a dummy in place. C depends only on A, while D depends on both A and B, exactly as intended. So, one event depends, a two event depends on one event. So, when a network diagram accidentally creates incorrect dependencies, the activity is added to maintain the correct sequence without changing the actual work. Critical path analysis. The critical path for any network is the longest path through the entire network. Thus, if the project is to be completed in the shortest time, all activities on the critical path must be satisfied or started as soon as possible. So these activities are called critical activities. After determining the earliest and the latest scheduled times for various activities, the minimum time required to complete the project is calculated. In a network, among various paths, the longest path which determines the total time duration of the project is called the critical path. The following conditions must be satisfied in locating the critical path of a network. So an activity is said to be critical only in both the conditions are satisfied. No? So here's an example. No? A project schedule has the following characteristics as shown in the table here. So we will construct a PRT network, compute TE and TL for each activity, and find the critical path. So here is the diagram, the solution rather, and the answer for the table project schedule. So the table at the top lists all the project activities A to L here, along with their corresponding start and end nodes and time durations. So each activity is represented by pair of nodes. For example, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, and etc. And the duration in days, this table is the basis of constructing the network diagram. So in the figure below, these activities are translated into an activity network diagram. So the numbered circles 1 to 10 represents events or nodes, while the arrows between them represents activities labeled with their durations. The flow generally moves from left, start, node 1, the right, and node 10, showing the sequence in which tasks must be performed. So the diagram also shows that some activities can occur in parallel. For example, paths branching from node 1 to nodes 1 to 3, as seen here, no? 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 2 to 4, 3 to 4, 3 to 5, 5 to 7. No. So this structure helps identify all possible paths from start to finish. So the purpose of constructing this network is to later determine the critical path, which is the longest path through the network. So this path represents the minimum time needed to complete the entire project, and any delay in its activities will directly delay the whole project. So as shown in the image here, no, this slide shows compute the earliest time TE and latest time TL for each of the activity of the project. So the calculations of TE and TL are as follows, no? So what is TE? So TE is the earliest time an activity can happen. So we calculate it forward, start to end. No? So formula idea here is the TE of next activity is equal to max, which is the previous TE plus duration. So here's an example. TE, example 1 is equal to 0. Project starts at time 0. So TE, sample 2 is equal to TE 1 plus duration is equal to 0 plus 4 is equal to 4. So TE4 is equal to max over close parenthesis TE2 plus 1, TE3 plus 4. So choose the longer path, no? Why max? So because an activity must wait for all recalled previous tasks. So you take the latest finish among them. So on the other hand, what is TL? So TL is the latest time. So TL is equal to the latest time an activity can happen without delaying the project. So we calculate it backward and to start. So an example here is TL10 is equal to TE10 is equal to 22. This is the final node. So TL9 is equal to TL10 minus the duration, which is 22 minus 7 is equal to 15. So if there are multiple next activities, use min, not max. So here's an example. TL5 is equal to min which is the TL6 minus 5, TL7 minus 7. So why min? Because you must not delay any following activities, so you take the earliest limit. So here's the big idea. Forward pass or the TE, how early can I do this? Backward pass, TL, how late can I delay this without problems? So why does this matter? You can find slack or float is equal to TL minus TE. So this activities with 0 slack is equal to 0 critical path. If delayed, whole project is delayed. So TE, again, earliest start, TL, latest allowed time.
Next is the critical path. So from the table, so we can see that we observe that the activities from 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, and 7 to 8, and 8 to 10 are critical activities as their floats are 0. So this image shows the final step in determining the critical path using the critical path method or CPM. The table on the left summarizes the cumulative scheduling values for each activity: earliest starts or ES, earliest finish or EF, latest start or LS, latest finish or LF, and total float. The total float indicates how much an activity can be delayed without affecting the overall project completion time. Activities with 0 float are critical because any delay in them will directly delay the entire project. From the table, the activities with 0 float are 1 to 3 is B, 3 to 5 is E, 5 to 7 is H, and 7 to 8 is J, and 8 to 10 is K. These activities from the critical path, which is also highlighted in the network diagram on the right, usually shown with a distinct or bold red line. This path represents the longest route from the start node 1 to the finish node 1 to 10. So in summary, the critical path is 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, and 7 to 8, and 8 to 10. So in this path determines the minimum project duration, and any delay in these activities will delay the entire project. All other activities have some float, meaning they have limited flexibility without impacting the final deadline. So next is the scheduling of activities, earliest time or TE, and latest time or TL. Before the critical path in a network is determined, it is necessary to find the earliest and latest time of each event to know the earliest expected time or the TE, at which the activities originating from the event can be started, and to know the latest allowable time or the TL, at which activities terminating at the event can be completed. So before finding the critical path, you must calculate the earliest time or the TE an activity can start and the latest time or the TL it can finish without delaying the project. So next is the scheduling of activities in earliest time or TE. So arrows and nodes. So as you can see, this image, this illustrates the activity on arrow or the EOA method used in project scheduling, specifically for calculating the earliest time or TE. So the nodes represents events or points in time marked as the EBCDE, and the arrows represent activities or tasks that must be completed to move from one node to the next. So the flow of the diagram shows the sequence. So activity A branches into two paths, one leading to B and another leading to C, D, and E. This visual layout helps determine the earliest time each activity can start and finish, which is essential for project planning. So next is the forward pass computations to calculate earliest time or the TE. So in step 1, begin from the start event and move towards the end event. So in step 1, direction of calculation. So you can start at the very beginning of the project and work your way forward to the final task or the event. So step 2, put T equals 0 for the start event. So starting point, set the earliest time or T of the starting event to 0. This is the project time 0. So step 3, go to the next event or the node 2. If there is an incoming activity for event 2, add calculate TE for a previous event or the event 1 and activity time. Note, if there are more than one incoming activities, calculate TE for all incoming activities and take the maximum value. This value is the TE for event 2. So calculation for the next event in step 3. So move to the next event to find its TE. Add the TE of the previous event to the duration of the activity connecting them. So here are the important rules. If an event has more than one activity coming into it, multiple paths leading there. So calculate the TE or for all incoming paths. So you must take the maximum value among them. This ensures your account for the longest path, which determines when the event can actually begin. So number 4, step 4, repeat the same procedure from step 3 till the end event. So continue this process step by step until you reach the very last event. So the next slide explains the backward pass method used in project scheduling to calculate the latest time or the TL. TL represents the latest time an activity can start or finish without delaying the entire project. So here is the breakdown of the steps. So direction of calculation. So unlike the forward pass, you start at the end event or the final task and work your way backward toward the start event, effectively reversing the direction of the arrows. So next step is starting point. Set the latest time or the TL of the final event equal to its earliest time or the TE calculated earlier. This ensures the project finishes on time. So number 3, step 3, calculation for the previous events. So move to the previous event to find its TL, subtract the duration of the activity from the TL of the event you just came from. So if an event has more than one activity leading out of it, so multiple paths going forward. Calculate the TL or all outgoing paths. You must take the minimum value among them. This ensures you do not set a time that would cause any subsequent path to be delayed. And step 4, repeat. Continue this process step by step until you reach the very first event. So ensure the backward pass calculates the latest possible timeline by working backward and always choosing the smallest value whenever there is a choice. So next slide is the determination of float and slack times. So this explains how to calculate float and slack times in project scheduling. These values show how much an activity can be delayed without affecting the overall project completion time. So TIG is duration of the activity, T earliest expected time an event can occur, T latest allowable time an event can occur, E is earliest start time of the activity, AF earliest finish time of the activity, LS latest start time of the activity, LF latest finish time of the activity. So total float, this is the maximum amount of time an activity can be delayed from its earliest start time without delaying the entire project. So key concept, activities with zero float are critical activities and lie on a critical path. Any delay in these activities will delay the whole project. Activities with positive float are non-critical activities and have flexibility in their scheduling. So next slide is the continuation of the explanation of float and slack times. So focusing on pre-float and independent float. So pre-float, this is the amount of time an activity can be delayed from its earliest time finish time without affecting the earliest start time of the next activity. It only concerns the immediate successor activity. It is a more restrictive measure than total float. So independent float, this is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without affecting any subsequent activities, assuming that the previous activity finished at its latest possible time. It represents the safety margin that exists even under the worst case scenario for the preceding work. So important rule, if the calculation results in a negative value, the independent float is considered to be 0. So in summary, total float, delay without delaying the whole project, pre-float, delay without delaying the next activity, independent float, delay without delaying anything even if previous work was late. So next is the project evaluation review technique, or the PERT. In the critical path method, the time estimates are assumed to be known with certainty. In certain projects like research and development, new product introductions, it is difficult to estimate the time of various activities. Optimistic time, it is the shortest time taken to complete the activity, most likely time TM. It is the normal time taken to complete an activity if the activity were frequently repeated under the same conditions. Pessimistic time, or TP, it is the longest time that an activity would take to complete. It is the worst time estimate that an activity would take if unexpected problems are faced.
We'll be discussing the essential part of project management, which focus on project evaluation and review technique, commonly known as PERT. It's a connection to cost analysis and project planning. So let us begin with PERT. So its meaning is the critical path method that time estimates are assumed to be known with a certain, or in certain projects like research and development and new product introductions. It's difficult to estimate the time various activities. So first is the optimistic time. So it says the shortest time taken to complete the activity. So which is true, which is refers to the shortest possible time required to complete an activity, or under ideal condition where everything goes perfectly without delays. Second is the most likely time. No. which is represents the normal duration expected under the typically working conditions. The third is the pessimistic, which is pessimistic time, which is the longest possible time activity may unexpected problems or difficulties occur. So by combining three types of estimates, PERT calculates the expected time for each activity. So which is this is the formula that given here and this provided in the this topic. So by combining these three types of PERT, a realistic estimate because it's considered both case and worst scenarios. In addition, PERT it allow us to compute the variance of activity durations, which measures the level of uncertainty or risk associated with each activity. One of the most powerful PERT is ability to determine is the probability completing project within a given time frame. This done using a statistically methods, particularly standard normal distribution. By comparing the expected project duration with the target completion time, managers can calculate likelihood or finishing the project on schedule. This is extremely useful for decision making because it helps identify whether the deadlines are realistic or adjustments are needed. For example, is the probability of completing. So we have the example here, which is R&D project has a list in the tasks. So these certain numbers of days, so it's giving a completing of 24 days is a very low indicator of high risk or delay. It's just case manager consider increasing resources or improving or extending the deadline. On the other hand, if the probability is high, it means schedule or achievable well planned. So PERT involves construction network, which is this. It's a connection of project activities and their relationship. After calculating expected times, we identify the critical path, which the sequence of activity that determines the total project duration. Any delay in this path will directly affected completion to time of the entire project. By focusing on critical activities, managers can prioritize tasks, allocate resources more effectively. Now we understand the PERT. It helps estimating the time and managing uncertainty. Let us move on cost analysis, which is another crucial aspect of project. So anytime the time costs are closely related, generally reducing the time required completing a project will increase the costs, and extending the time may reduce. This relation we call the time cost trade-off. So this is the two components of the activity, which directly to the time and vice versa. So the time cost trade-off, manager may find the right balance between completing the project quickly and keeping cost budget. So there is two types, no? The normal type, which is the two important concept in cost analysis, which is the normal time and the crush time. So a normal time refers to standard duration required to complete activity under the regular conditions with the lowest possible cost. On the other hand, the crush time is shortest possible time in which activity can be completed by applying additional resources such as extra labor or equipment. However, reducing the time to crush time usually increase directly and cost activity, which is this measure how much the additional required to reduce duration of activity. We use the concept of cost loss. So cost loss is the increased cost per unit of time saved by crushing a linear cost curve in short figure 8.27, which is we provide. Cost left represent increase, like I said, and which is the help manager to decide which activity should be crashed in order to reduce overall project duration at least possible cost. For instance, If activity normally takes 4 days to complete a certain cost, but it can be reduced in 2 days, additionally expense the cost of slow shows that how much extra cost incurred per day saved. This allows project manager to compare different activities and choose the most effective option for speeding up the project. So, cost analysis is particularly important with a project must be completed earlier than planned by carefully selecting which activity to crash. Manager can be minimize the total additional cost while still meeting deadlines. However, it's important to note that excessive crashing can lead to very high costs, may not always be practical. So, in conclusion, no, support and cost analysis and powerful tools that help managers deal with uncertain plan effectively and make informed decision first. Provides a realistic way to estimate activity duration, evaluate the probability meeting deadlines while cost analysis help balance and time and expenditure through strategic decision making. Together, these techniques ensure that projects are completed not only time but also within the budget, making this essential in modern project management. So that's all. Thank you and thank you.